the letter from the ODM party, which is dated the 29th of November 2023, in which the ODM party accused you of irregular deductions of political parties' fund. They said that you had actually made, in the supplementary estimates, a reduction of 867 million from the vote of political parties' fund. They also went ahead to say many other things which are on that letter. And since this was in the public domain, it drew the attention of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, since this is the committee that oversights the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. And we framed the issues as we understood them to be as set out in your letter. So in less than 10 minutes, can you please take us through your response?
We would want to respond to the five questions that the committee raised to us. First of all, is also to admit that when we received the letter, we also responded, and under the document present there, you can see there's a letter dated 1st of December, which we responded to the Secretary General of ODM on matters regarding the position of the fund. And even before we respond to the questions, we were very categorical that the work of appropriation of funds squarely belongs to Parliament, and the Office of Registrar receive money from Parliament after appropriation. Our work is to administer political parties fund as required by the Political Parties Act 2011, which contains our mandate. So we responded and also responded to the issues that the party had raised. But now coming to our response to your letter, we want to start by the document before you, Chair, and without belaboring the first 2 pages, because it just introduce our office and our mandate and our functions, but part of the function, as you can clear, the subject under discussion, function number 3 is to administer political parties fund as a function. So we administer what has been given to us by Parliament, who has the mandate according to the Constitution to appropriate political parties fund. We also talk of our core values in page 3, and we also bring to light to the committee on our programs. We have the program of registration, regulation, and political parties funding as one program. Then the sub-program is political parties funds as a sub-program, registration and regulation as a sub-program, and political parties liaison committee as a sub-program. Chair, we want to submit that in page 5, when it comes to the political parties fund, the political parties fund is established under Section 3 of the Political Parties Act 2011, and which mandates the registrar as the administrator of the fund. And it is very clear, Chair, that the Political Parties Act expects that such funds not being less than 0.3% of all the national government shareable revenue as divided by the annual division of revenue enacted pursuant to Article 218 of the Constitution as may be determined by the National Assembly. And then 2, it can have contribution and donation from any other lawful sources. The Act also gives the criteria on the distribution of that fund. A, 70% of the fund appropriated by reference to the total number of votes secured by each political party in the preceding general election. 15% of the fund proportionately to the political parties based on the number of candidates of the political party from special interest groups elected in the preceding general election. And C, 10% of the fund proportionately to political parties based on the total number of the representatives from the political party elected in the preceding general election. And D, 5% for the administration of expenses of the fund. So, a political party is entitled, depending on the different parameters that has been stipulated there, Chair. So I wanted to give that criteria and the 0.3% as per requirement. To answer your first question, on page 7, Chair, the political parties fund, which is established under section 23, is required to have 0.3%. We want to submit that we have not received any other contribution towards the fund apart from what is appropriated by Parliament, and that's what we administer. However, political parties themselves can source other funds, for example, from membership, from contribution from elected leaders and all that, to their account. But as far as the consolidated fund that comes from registrar, we only receive money from Parliament. And therefore, to answer your first questions, we do not have another source. We expect to get money from Parliament appropriated according to the existing laws and regulations. Table 1, Chair, give you a history of how the resources have been allocated since 2013, 2014. It should be known clearly that the political parties started 2007 after the first Political Parties Act. And that table actually brings to light all the funds that has been appropriated and given. And you can see clearly the last column, Chair, that we have had deficits throughout the period. We have never, even a single time, realized the 0.3% as required by the Political Parties Act. And you can see in 2014, the registrar requested 3.3 billion. We only received 205 million, 0.2. Then the deficit was 3.0 billion. The following year, we requested for 3.2, and then received only 360 million. The deficit was 2.8 billion. The other year, 2016-17, we requested 3.5 billion. We received only 370, and then our deficit was 3.1 billion. 2017-2018, we requested for 3.5 billion. We received 371 million. The deficit was 3.1 billion. 2018-2019, we requested for 2.7. We received 671 million. The deficit was 2.1 billion. 2019, we requested 4.1 billion, received 871 million. Deficit was 3.2 billion. 2020-2021, we requested for 3.7 billion, received 795 million. The deficit was 2.9 billion. In that year, Chair, we also were given extra money for Court Award, and you can see there we received 200 million for Court Award, which was awarded to ODM as a party. 2021-2022, we requested for 4.5 billion, received 1.5 billion, 75 million. The deficit was 3.5 billion. In this year also, Chair, we received an additional Court Award money appropriated by Parliament which was 900 million. The same was awarded to ODM as a party. And 2022-2023, we had requested for 4.5 billion. We received 884 million. 3.6 was the deficit. 2023-2024, we requested for 5.2 billion. We received 1.4 billion 75, and 3.8 was the deficit. As you can see, Chair, there has been a bit of growth, and it's important to note that from 2013 coming this way, there has been a steady growth, slowly by slowly, increasing the money. However, we note that that growth have now been interfered with by cutting of budgets, the political parties fund. Because when we now, Parliament appropriate at the beginning of the financial year 1.4 billion, then later bring the money down, it affects the programming. Of course, I will respond to that in another submission within this main submission. Chair, without belaboring, you can see how we have distributed the money, which we may not read all through. Yeah, but you can note that all this time, we have been having either two political parties, table 2.4 show 4, which was the TNA, the Orange Democratic Movement, URP, WIPA, those were only 4. In table 6, you go all the way, that particular period, it was only 2 parties that were benefiting, only Jubilee Party and ODM. In regards to quota award, which is your second question, Chair, you can see 0.3, we are giving you the 2 quota awards, the money that have been appropriated for quota award, which is 900 million in 2021-2022, and 200 million in 2020-2021, meaning in total we have paid 1.1 billion as quota award to the ODM party. And for the background, it is important to note that it's ODM party as a party that went to court, and then they prosecuted the matter all the way, and they were awarded by the court. What the court never said is what is the amount. So we take the amount that the party that had claimed to be the baseline, but the court never pronounced itself on the amount to be awarded. 3.1 shows the parties after the change of the Political Parties Act 2022, more parties, the criteria was reviewed as discussed earlier, and about 48 political parties started benefiting, and you can see the distribution of that money all the way to page 11 for that financial year. We are now in the second financial year, which is 2022-2023, and you can see the distribution at the beginning, when we actually got the money appropriated by Parliament at the beginning of the financial year. That is how the distribution looked like. But now, in page 12, we look at the distribution after the budget cut. We have experienced the budget cut of 867 million, meaning the remaining amount, Chair, is about 600 million, meaning we have to go back to the drawing board to redistribute the money. And we want to tell you, Chair, one of our problem is that when you redistribute the money again, it affects the quotas. Already by the time Parliament was appropriating the funds, already we had requested for an exchequer for the second quarter, because money is given to us in quotas. So the money had already been credited, but when now the budget cut happened, the budget went negative, meaning we cannot distribute the money because the budget is already, you cannot dispute what Parliament has not appropriated, because the appropriation means that our budget now is negative as far as the item is concerned, meaning the money cannot be enough to meet the requirement of second quarter. However, I want to note to you, Chair, we have written to the National Treasury, and I think there's a letter there, you can see, Annex 2, requesting for advice from the National Treasury to tell us exactly what to do in our situation, because we have money, but our budget is negative, so the money cannot be supported by the budget. And we have the money that remained after the budget cut is 608 million. And our requirement is more than that for the quarter, because already we had distributed the first quarter. So that's where we are. We are in cash 22. We are seeking for advice from the National Treasury and of course this committee and Parliament in general, because they are the one who effected the budget cut, which is their work actually, to look at appropriation of monies. So in terms of the compliance to court order, I think I've explained, and I will explain again, that it is ODM that went to court, and they were claiming 4.1 billion. Court never pronounced itself on the figures, but so far we have done a court award of 1.1 billion. So if we have to go at the 4.1 as the baseline, then we have about 3 billion that has not been appropriated by Parliament to the payment of this court award. Chair, I can say that the budget cut will affect political parties, because I want you to take it that political parties are institutions, just like Parliament, just like OLPP. They have staff, they have a business to run, they have activities that they had already planned using the political parties, because they were assured that money is coming, and it has already been gazetted and appropriated at that particular time. So the question you ask us, what is the possible effect of the budget cut? I will say, and I will say in 6.0, that part of it is that Kenya is a multi-party democracy, and therefore promotion of democracy will be a problem when the budget cut come. Then organization of political parties' activities, because they have activities, and they have the right to seek public opinion and take public opinion of political parties back to the public. So that one will have a problem. Promotion of active participation of Kenyans and individuals to participate in political processes and political parties will be affected. Promotion of representation in Parliament, because this period, election is a cycle, and we all know that. So this particular period, when there's no election, is when party plan their activities towards getting more members, towards getting more candidates, and towards getting more elected leaders using their party ticket. So that one will be affected. The participation of women, youth, persons with disability, and the youth, given that 15% of the funds is given to political parties on basis of how many of these special interest groups that have been brought on board. So that one will be affected. Popularization of party policies will be a problem. Payment of salaries of political party staff will have a problem with parties paying rent for their party offices, party headquarters and county offices, because every party is expected to have 24 offices across the country and one headquarter office. So meaning, then that will be affected, and utilities and other administrative activities. Finally, Chair, you have asked us what is our recommendation. As the question I'm asking, question number 5. Recommendation number 1 to this committee, Chair, is that Parliament should realize the 0.3% which has never been realized, yet it's in law. Section 24(1)(a) of the Political Parties Fund, allocating the fund. And you see, the Political Parties Fund is also constitutional. The Constitution establishes the fund, but the Act stipulates the percentages of the fund that should be gotten. So our recommendation, let Parliament realize the 0.3%. The number 2 is that despite Political Parties Fund not being allocated, the budget cuts is affecting political parties and it's affecting the fund. Last year, 2022-2023, we had a budget cut of 590.6 million, which affected the fund. This time, we even have a higher cut. From 590, we have now gone to 867. So our question is, next year, if this trend continues, Chair, we are asking ourselves what will happen to the fund. Yet political parties, they are also entitled for some rights given in the Constitution, Article 91, 92, 38, 27, 10, all those articles support political rights. So we request this committee to still maintain the fact that we are a multi-party democracy and political parties are also very important instruments of promotion of that multi-party democracy. So in conclusion, Chair, we want to beseech this committee that given that Kenya is a multi-party democracy as stipulated in Article 4(2) of the Constitution, this office submits that political parties are critical institutions in promotion of good governance and democracy and requires funds to run their affairs. It is important for the government, and specifically Parliament, to appropriate funds in compliance to Section 24 of the Political Parties Act. So finally, Chair, is our submission that you shall consider our consideration. Should there be anything that, Chair, you can do to reverse the cut, the budget cut, even in supplementary too, probably we will really appreciate on behalf of the political parties. Thank you very much.
With an observation that since 2014 or thereabout, you've been requesting for money, but it gets it just a small portion of what you ask for. Eventually, the formula was set out in the Act, what you are supposed to be asking for, a percentage of the national revenue. And even then, while you can ascertain how much money you should be getting, you just get a small fraction of it. The rest of it is actually appropriated for different purposes. Do you know the reason why this happens year in, year out? Why money is not availed to you as required? Thank you.
Looking at the legal framework, are you such powerless? I mean, you cannot take any other step to compel Treasury, for example, apart from maybe coming to this committee to compel release or disbursement of these funds.
So is it high time maybe then we also now start rethinking this law and the percentages? I know the political parties might be or will be up in arms, but then I also ask, why have it in law if it is not enforceable? Because Kenyans also don't seem like they are very sympathetic to this situation, because the government has not collected sufficient money, for example, to pay for the roads, the medicine, that is drugs, the subsidies that are required, and we are saying that we want to put 1.4 billion shillings to political parties, and we have not sufficiently catered for the CBC, for example. Don't you think this competition of resources is what is bringing challenges? And maybe as we move, we may need to start rethinking of how we can amend this.
Yeah, one, we appreciate the physical space and the money that is, the resources that are not adequate for everything. But our only problem is that even when it's availed, because when we appropriate at the beginning, then probably we should maintain that. Our request was the fund can grow progressively, there has been demonstration of that growth. If the table I've just presented, we started from 205 million, came to 300 and something, came to 600, came to 800 million, came to, and now we are at 1.4 billion. Yeah, which means that actually we have been growing the fund progressively. To address Honorable Kagushia's question, that whether really we want to review, we may not want to review the 0.3%, but we may want to prorate the allocation of that money so that we grow it. We grow it until such a time that it can be supported to that 0.3%. But scrapping the law, that should not be considered, should not be a consideration from where we sit. So I think the one thing that we request is parliamentary goodwill to the appropriation of this fund, and to know that democracy actually need to be supported. Democracy sometimes, it's the only thing probably we need to fix the politics of a country, and everything else will move forward. So let's not ignore that fact. The other fact is that whether Honorable Makali is asking whether we are powerless. To the extent of presenting our issues, we have done, and we are not powerless in terms of presenting them. But implementing lies with Parliament and the National Treasury. Treasury, we have been able to work together. This time, money was not cut at Treasury. You can see that. Money was actually cut at parliamentary level, meaning that we have been able to engage with the National Treasury to see the value of this fund, and that's why this particular time, they are not the one who initiated the deduction. So that means that we are engaging, and that's why we are before you, Chair, also to really persuade you that this is an important fund that you can be able to fund. Let me ask Mr. Ari to tell us about whether we rethink and when the roads are not paid. And
what we want to say is that this fund is actually envisaged by the people of Kenya. And that is why in Article 92F, Kenyans said, envisaged that there is need for funding of political parties. Because the highest document through which Kenyans speak is the Constitution. It provided that Parliament shall provide for enactment of legislation for the establishment and management of political parties fund. I think that need to ring in everybody's mind, and therefore it is Kenyans who wanted political parties to be funded. So we want to associate with the defense of this fund. And if you look at the requests, we have always requested for 0.3%. So I also want to, in response to this, to the ODM, that this office has always wanted the attainment of the full 0.3%. In all our presentations, even before this committee, the last one being submissions during the supplementary 2, we said there is a deficit and we requested for that deficit. So we appreciate that resources are limited and there are a lot of competing interests and competing interests for the same resources. But again, since we have given the law into ourselves, it's important that we respect that law and we get the 0.3% of the fund. With regards to whether there's need for review, of course, laws are flexible, and we have always looked at what works and what doesn't work, and we learn. And therefore, that and the issue lies again with Parliament, because if there is need for any review, it will still go back to Parliament. We are currently looking at our post-election evaluation report and see what laws that we need to look at, and we are working on the legal reforms. But we want to say that this is not one area that as an office we are targeting. We want the attainment of the 0.3%. But if the Parliament in its wisdom probably says not scrapping but progressive achievement, so that we say This year we do 0.5. In implementation of the 0.3%, we give ourselves 5 years, and maybe after 5 years is when we are going to reach the 0.3%. That is something that Parliament can consider. But I want to really say that in terms of disrupting the operations of the parties and disorganizing the parties, this cut has really curtailed the activities of political parties, and in essence affects democracy. Thank you very much.
We must confess that the biggest problem is inadequate funds, and we have to do reallocations to try and meet the most urgent of the needs. And when evaluated, maybe this was not one of the most urgent needs. So you have to excuse Parliament because it cannot expand these resources. They have to be available from Treasury, and we just have to do it the way we have done it.
More Radio, 88.2 FM. We are in charge.